It's a very, very beautiful morning once again. Just that we're having showers of blessing.
Amen.
So today our activity is traveling from Elmina to Accra with 2 activities in Elmina and Cape Coast.
I am from a township, and to be honest with you, going into a space and seeing a fish market for the first time, like an actual fish market, was very interesting. Like there was kinds and kinds and kinds of fish that you can think of, you know. Big and small in different sizes, but like when we arrived at that place in particular, it was very nice to see it from an aerial point of view, because it's like baskets and baskets and baskets of fish, and you've got different ladies wearing different types of cloths around their waist, and then some have different headbands, and there's a very beautiful type of hat that is also very, very cool, and it's nice and big, and it covers your shoulders because it's so hot, right? And then when you look across there, you'll see like multiple boats, and these boats have different flags, whether it's like football flags in terms of like the different teams or the different country flags, and you wonder like where all these people are coming from, but it's like buzzing and buzzing and buzzing. There's so much within that space, and it's like business. Obviously it's a place of trade, so everyone is in a hurry, and you're moving in between all these different baskets, which is quite fun to see. But yeah, I think I enjoyed it because I've never seen something like that before. It was my first time, and I thought I looked cool as well with like the hats on my head and everything. But yeah, it's quite nice to see a space where people are just trading, and it's so rich in terms of the experience itself. And if you've never been in a place like that, then you get to see it for yourself firsthand, for all the different kinds of foods that we eat, which is an educational point of view, yeah. Everybody, welcome to Elmina Castle. We're here to learn more about slavery and its impact on, well, the community, Ghana specifically, and just, yeah, the relationship of that and the coast and just this entire community. So I don't know what we're gonna find inside, but I'm quite excited. So yeah, come with me as we explore.
One peculiar thing about the Africans that make us unique is our proverbs. Our proverbs.
Yes.
So let me quiz you a bit. Nigerians are very good in proverbs. Until the lion has his historian, the hunter will always be a hero. Mm-hmm. What does it mean?
It means that from a perspective, a story is important from the perspective of the person who's telling it, because yes, until the lion
has his historian,
yes,
the hunter will always be a hero.
Because the lion,
something,
yeah,
after you experience something yourself, you never understand it from that person who's gone through it. Is that?
Yeah, of course, you are right. It also implies that history needs to be told from the victim side.
Yes.
Most of the books
otherwise
you
the
read,
victor will always look like a hero.
Yes, we need to write and tell our own story. And history defines who you are.
Amen.
It is your identity.
Yes.
If you don't know history, then you know yourself. So until the lion has his story, the hunter will always be a hero.
Yeah.
So Akwaba.
Welcome.
Akwaba means welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we are now in Elmina Township. Yeah. Elmina came as a result of the frequent supply of gold the Portuguese were getting from here. They call this place the gold mines. Elmina. Mm-hmm. The original site over here is straight from that place going. That's the old town of Elmina. Mm-hmm. The town was bombarded in 1873 because the Ashantis and the Elminians became one, and they were fighting with the British over here. Due to that, the town was destroyed. Those who survived spread themselves to that side. Yeah. The founder of this town, Kwamankwa, he discovered a lagoon. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the smaller god by name Chibwa revealed him or herself to the founder, Kwamankwa, on Tuesday. So it has become a sacred day to bring fish to the port on Tuesday's morning. Mm-hmm. But they rather go out for fishing on Tuesday's evening. Then they come back on Wednesday's morning. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he gave the name of this town Ano Mansa. Nso a Enoma Onsa, inexhaustible water, and no answer, or Kwaman Kwakrum, he was the founder of this town. But now, surprisingly, we are not hearing those names anymore. Yeah, we are trying to revive the old names of Elmina. Sometimes you also hear Edina. Edina is not the name of this town also. It's Aldea. It's a Portuguese word which means village. In Arabic, it means harbor or ports. The word has been corrupted to Edina. Yeah. Education, religion, development, agriculture, also from Elmina. Elmina used to be the first administrative center, capital town for Ghana, then time Gold Coast, before it moved to Cape Coast. Then in 1877, it moved to Accra. So this is a pure historical town. Yeah. The major economic activity over is fishing, boat building and salt mining. Yeah, we do fishing throughout the week, except Tuesday, racing for the fishermen over here. When the Dutch were here, Elmina was grouped into companies. We call it Asafu companies, for Suban shrines. You have the Army, Navy, Air Force, so many companies in this town. Yeah, military companies. Each company performs a specific role in terms of festivals, occasions, and so on. They still exist in the town with different totems, symbols, colors, and so on. We have the Dutch cemetery. At one point, where we have the fort over there, the white building, initially, the fort wasn't built. It wasn't there. That was where the Portuguese were having a Catholic church. In 1596, the Dutch attacked the Portuguese for the first time from the seaward direction. The church was destroyed. Less than a year, the Catholic church was re-established in the castle. Yeah, we go in the church, become a museum right now. In 1625, the Dutch also made a second attack on the Portuguese from the same direction. They couldn't succeed. Now the Elminians were angry with the Portuguese behavior, the slavery activities. On the 29th of August, 1637, the locals led the Dutch to divide themselves into two. The main attack came from inland. Similar attack came from the seaward direction. The Portuguese were now in the middle. It took the Dutch 3 days for them to move the Portuguese out of this castle, with the intention that the Dutch will not also engage in the slave business. When the Dutch took over the castle, they realized that slavery was much profitable. They also engaged to it. They deceived the locals. Therefore, the Dutch had so many forts in Elmina. About 7 forts were built. Yeah. On the way to Cape Coast direction, there was a fort called Fort Douglas. If there's an attack from that side, Fort Douglas will see the attack first, communicate to different various forts. At one point, some Elminians were taken to Java. Java is a town in Indonesia between our soldiers. So when they came, they settled on a hill called Java Hill. Yeah, we have a Java Museum in the town. So Fort Douglas will communicate to Fort Java. Fort Java will communicate to Fort Scomeros at the back of the Fort Jago, Fort Scomeros. Fort Scomeros to Fort Brutenstein, Barkenstein, De Vere, and lastly, Fort Santiago, then to the castle. That's why the Dutch spent longer time over here, 235 years in Elmina. They chose this place as their eternal home. But surprisingly, we have some few of our local words being Portuguese. Words like asopate, sandals, it's a Portuguese word. Pano, bread, it's a Portuguese word. Chomel, it's a Portuguese word. The silver, we have so many Portuguese words over here. Yeah, Da Costa, and so many. So, Elmina is the only town in Ghana that we don't celebrate Western Christmas.
Oh, really?
Yes, we believe in our traditional customs. We don't celebrate Western Christmas. We have our own Christmas. We call it Edna Bronya. Bronya simply means Bro Kenya, swim and go for it. When the Dutch were here, items were placed on the lagoon for people to swim in the form of competition. So the faster that we swim, the better chance of getting good item. So Bro Kenya, swim and go for it. Bro Kenya, Bronya, Bronya. Now the whole country has adopted Bronya as a local language for Christmas. So here we don't celebrate Western Christmas. Yeah, first week of January, that's our traditional Christmas. Bronya. Now we call it Insegu Afeshe, pouring of libation festivals. Family members from different places, friends, relatives, and so on, they will come together, they will eat, they will settle disputes and so on. It's very fun. Yeah, that's our Christmas. Yeah, we believe in the traditional system. And Elmina is also the only town that we perform, funeral. We have funeral rites. When a person have a car accident, a vehicle accident, we have a special way of doing the funeral. After the normal funeral rites, we have a special funeral rite for such a person. We believe that such a person died let me say, unexpectedly.
Unexpectedly,
Yeah.
yes. Uh-huh.
Yes. So the spirit of such a person is still at the accident scene.
Yes.
So here we will go to the accident scene, we put the spirit back to the home.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Well-
done after the funeral.
After the funeral.
With us, it's done before.
Yes. If not, the person will cause serious
More accidents,
over
correct,
there.
yeah.
So we believe in our traditional system. Yeah. And we believe that in a place where so many souls have been there, the spirit of our ancestors, they are still there.
They linger, yeah.
Yeah.
They do.
Sometimes when we go to the castle, the room of no return, some of the rooms are very heavy.
Oh yeah, last time I came, you feel it, especially the one
Yeah.
where they were crawling.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
feel something
Yeah.
around you.
Yes.
It's something.
There was a time
It felt-
there was shooting a movie in a castle, Dennis movie, Gold Coast. One of the characters was just collapsing a lot, several occasions. You need to pour libation over here. So when you go inside, you see schnapps, bottles of schnapps over there. You need to pour libation over there. People trace their ancestral roots to this place.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's Elmina.
See.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any question?
That's
Then
good.
we are now moving into the castle. Yeah. And as you can see, the big space over here, this is where during festivals, we do ceremony over here,
Okay.
gathering.
Okay.
Yeah. And our main festival is Edna Bakatwe. Bakatwe is an agricultural festival. We celebrate it every first week of July. We do regatta on the lagoon. The women will be in their traditional attire with different hairstyles, displaying, dancing. So it's very colorful.
Ah,
Very colorful.
in July,
Yeah,
first
July.
week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And the square diagram over there, it was served as a sun clock. Let's get closer. Sun clock. They will put a pole in the middle. The shadow of the stick will be to indicate time. So that's a sundial. So the cardinal point is over there. You see, so that's the cardinal point. Yeah. You have the south over here, the north, and so on. West,
Yeah.
east. So you have the cardinal point.
Naughty elephant sprays water.
Yeah.
That's how you remember
You
it.
see, so that's from 1630s. From 1630s. Yes. And when you go to the fish markets, we have different kinds of vessels, the canoes. You have the smaller ones, the medium ones, and the bigger ones. The smaller ones are the seafoods, shrimps, crabs, octopus, and so on. They can go and come back in time of the
During
day.
the day, yeah.
Yeah, the medium ones spent overnight. They go with 15 people on board, or 14, 15, or 16, because they need more hands to pull the nets.
Okay.
The bigger ones spend 2 or 3 days. They go with ice blocks, refrigerators, and so on. They come with the cake fish.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe once you are passing, maybe you saw some flags on top of the boats. What's the significance of the flags? For identification. If the boats are coming from afar, the flag can able to identify this is my boat's coming. That's why you have different country flags on the boats.
Okay.
Yes.
Makes sense. Okay.
So in 1471, that was the first time the Portuguese arrived over here. When they met the then king called Nana Kwamna Ansa, based upon agreement, he released this portion of land. The castle was built in 1482. The main concept over here wasn't meant for slavery into goods. Therefore, the rooms on the ground floor are storerooms or the warehouses for their gold, ivory, spice, and so on. Then in 1500, the Portuguese changed the idea from goods to human trade. The warehouses were being converted to dungeons where captives or enslaved Africans were kept. The castle is talking about 1,000 captives at a time, about 600 men and about 400 women. At times, the number could be more. 1637, the Dutch took over the castle with the support from the locals. Later, the English came in 1872. As of now, the castle is 543 years. This is the biggest and the oldest castle in the whole of West Africa in terms of transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this castle, it was all the Portuguese and the Dutch. They were here for the slavery activities. The English used Cape Coast Castle, the other castle. When the English occupied the castle in 1872, the place was used as a sub-administrative center. During the Second World War, 1939 to 45, the English brought people from all English-speaking West African countries to be trained here. They were taken to Burma and India as a Royal West African Frontier Force. 3 years later, the place was used as a police training school. Then later on, they transferred the police training school to Windy Bay, now called Winneba. On the way to Accra, there's a big roundabout over there with some statues in it, Windy Bay. It's like Cape Coast. The right word is Kabukoso, Island of Coast. The interchange to Cape Coast, yeah. Now, in Ghana, about 40 to 50 forts and castles were built on the coastal zones. 17 of them are still existing.
Okay.
3 of them are just World Heritage Sites. This castle, the fort up there in Cape Coast Castle. There is a similar one in Senegal, the Gore Island.
Yes.
Zanzibar in Tanzania. Fort Jesus in Kenya, Mombasa. William Fort in Benin. 2 in Nigeria, Badagry and Calabar states. So they had a lot in Ghana because of the Atlantic Ocean. As for the building materials, the Europeans actually used bent bricks, seashells, limestones, and local palm oil. No iron rods in the building because of the sea.
No rust easily?
Yes, easily rusty, yeah.
Okay.
And the Portuguese initially came with 600 workers from Portugal. They employed some of the locals over here. It took them 2 years for them to raise the face of the castle. The castle was built in stages. Later, when they got the captives, that was the time this is the much expansion. So most of the works were being done by own people. Yeah. And as for the white color that you are seeing, the whitewash, it's not the original color of the castle.
Oh, really?
Yes, the castle wasn't painted, just bricks.
Okay.
Until 1979, when the castle was selected as a World Heritage Site under UNESCO. That was the first time they painted the castle.
Okay.
It has repainted on several occasions.
Okay.
Most of the wooden aspects in the castle has been changed from 1960. And that's a drawbridge. Initially, it can be lifted. If there is any attack, they will just lift the bridge to prevent easy access to the castle.
Yeah.
Below the bridge, they will fill with seawater, the moats.
Okay.
This will be water.
Okay.
Yeah. The
Interesting.
outer moats and the inner moats, all through the seawater.
How long did it take to build it?
The castle was built in stages. Yeah. All the expansion of the castle, the architectural design of the castle was done by the Dutch. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And we have 2 different kinds of bricks over here. Red bricks by the Portuguese, yellow bricks by the Dutch from Holland. They brought them to balance their ships. In return, they were the captives. Yeah. So we are now entering into the main courtyard within the castle. Main courtyard within the castle. Yeah. About 600 men were kept in the various rooms on the ground floor. 600. As we all walk through the dungeons in this castle, it ought to be in the everlasting memory of the anguish for ancestors. May those who died rest in peace. May those who return find their roots. May humanity never again perpetrate such injustice against humanity.
Yeah.
We, the living, must all vow to uphold this. That's the core mission statement of the author of the castle. Yeah. These are some of the people that came during the year of return. Some were tracing their ancestral route to this place. They are all African Americans. They were tracing their ancestral route to this place. An Africanist. Yeah. African Genesis Institutes.
And I think
We are the
this is what
children of those who refuse to die.
Yes.
remember what we're talking about, Angela, about like how sometimes you don't choose your bloodline and stuff. A lot of like Africans that were transported from here to other various countries, it's like they didn't have a choice to kind of like start their lives, so they become, like Americans. But when they trace where they're from, it's literally here.
Yes, yeah. Because I was watching a documentary between Suriname and Elmina over here. The cultural aspect of Suriname and the cultural aspect of Elmina is similar, the same. Yeah. Our names, our games, our food is the same. Yeah.
It's beyond us. Like this whole thing.
And this word Jamaica. Jamaica, we believe that it's an Akan word, whether an Ashanti or a Fanti, an Akan word. Jamaica. It's like you've been to a place, they've left you. You are in a doubtful manner, asking yourself whether they've left you or not. They've left you or not. Jamaica.
It's a constant question you keep asking yourself.
Yes.
All the time.
Do you remember the Maroons? The Maroons were the hardened ones, hardened captives, those who ran to the mountainous areas when they went to the plantation and so on. Yeah. The symbol over here, the skull, the crossbones, it's an original symbol by the Dutch. That's a condemned cell. Condemned cell. For the difficult male captives, those who try to escape like the freedom fighters or the rebellious ones. They were kept over here and they were starved to death. No food, no water. None of the captives came here and went back alive. Yes, that's why you have the symbol outside, the skull and the crossbones. And the holes within the door, they are just peepholes to see whether those here are dead or not. Sea pirates also brought over here. And that was the only source of ventilation, leading to the other cell. So you can just imagine. Yes.
So the flowers.
2 or 3 could be here at a time. And all these flowers are back by our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, in the memory of those who died over here. We say, may their souls rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We are now moving to the other cell, the difference.
Don't tell me. Stop me out of know. I'm here.
This is the original gate. Initially, I said the locals helped the Dutch to defeat the Portuguese with the intention that the Dutch will not also engage in the slave business, but they did. The locals got angry. One of the Dutch governors was murdered in the town, by the locals. Therefore, the soldiers were restricted about their movement. Those who went out without permission beyond their territory were detained in this road. Others were fighting among themselves. They misbehaved. They were kept over here with discipline. Few hours, they were released. None of them died over here. Punishment for their own people. That's why the room is even well ventilated. There are 2 windows and the original metal gates. So you can see the difference between this one and the other cell. Yeah. Many people ask this question that the Europeans were doing business. If their motive, their intention was to gain much profits, then economically, they are taking good care of them, rather than allowing them to die and so on. But from my point of view, the supply of the captives were more. And before we also move on, how were the Europeans acquiring the captives? How were they getting the captives? Do you have any idea? How were they getting?
How were they? I don't know.
Yeah, how were they getting the captives?
From the, like, you mean like the slave masters? How were they getting the captives?
Yes.
I think from the towns or villages, maybe for those who try to not overrule them, but
The Africans were having their own system of slavery before the Europeans came. That was a domestic type of slavery, or commonly as an indentured servant, like a free man. A person who has the opportunity to own property, marry and give birth. And it will be difficult for someone to differentiate such a person. In our local context, call it Accra. Such a person becomes part of the family. Just that he or she cannot inherit a specific position in that family unless such a person married from a royal side. As compared to the chattel slavery by the Europeans, were different aspects altogether. Captives of wars were given out as slaves. Criminals, thieves, debtors were sold out as slaves. Some towns and villages were raided by the Europeans. Some chiefs collaborated, were influenced by the Europeans to exchange some of their servants for Europeans' goods, liquor, mirror, brass, etc., barter trade or silent trade. The question is, let's ask ourselves, has the slavery stopped as at now? Has it stopped?
No.
No, it's still going on.
Just a different form.
In a different dimension, in a modern form. It's still going on. It has not changed.
Yeah.
It's still going on.
For sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
So, the writings over there is in Old Dutch. It was placed there to remember a Dutch governor by name Van Tetz. He was the last Director General of the Dutch West Indies Company from Zeeland. Zeeland is one of the provinces in Netherlands. The governor presided over from the north and south coast of Africa. He arrived over here on the 16th of January 1758. He died in the same year, 12 March, the age of 41. Less than 3 months he spent over here. He might have died through malaria or yellow fever. He was buried right here, this place. There was a pastor called A. Amdracy. He wrote all these things in the form of tributes. All that he was saying was that the governor was a good man and a God-fearing. Good man and a God-fearing at the time of slavery. How good he was. I think all the pastor can explain that. It was seen as a normal business. Yeah. We are now moving to the room of no return. Yeah. Okay. So we are going to this side.
Elmina I think very beautiful from the outside, to be honest with you. Very aesthetically pleasing, very picture worthy. But I think the moment you go inside and you listen to the stories, there's a sort of, not resentment, but I think there's an anger, for lack of a better word, in my system that I feel, because I'm like, how can people be so cruel? Slavery as a concept itself for me was horrible.
About 150 to 200 men were kept over here. At the same time, a passage to the point of no return. The room at the back, it was a storeroom for the branding equipment. Most of the captives were branded. Hot metals with the merchants' names initially placed on their forehead or at their back for identification. Many of them died after receiving the shock. That was the only source of ventilation and lights. The two windows were done later. Yeah. Before the Europeans came, our ancestors were worshipping God. They knew the Supreme Being through different ways. So some of the visitors have different beliefs of coming to this place, reason of coming to this place. Some of them use the water to pray for the ancestors. The schnapp to pray for the ancestors, to evoke the spirits over here. Yeah, people trace their ancestral roots to this place.
Oh, this is the drink they used for the
Libation.
with the sword.
Yeah, the schnapp.
Yes,
for
yes,
libation.
yes.
Yeah. There was a time a man came from Jamaica and was suffering from a mild stroke. He was asked to come to Ghana, to Elmina Castle. He came, he poured libation over here. 4 months later, he came back and was 85% cured. Yeah. There was a time 2 ladies came from US and one of them was having a fiancé in Ghana over here. For a couple of months, 6 months or so, the lady has not heard from the guy over here. So she was here and I did some prayers for her and so on. Within less than 10 minutes over here, the guy called them, surprisingly. Yeah, that's our beliefs over here.
Wow.
Yes. That's why you have the calabash over here. People come over here to have some prayers over here. You have your own reason of coming to this place. That's why. Slave exit to waiting boats. Please, with the first gate, you take a step down here. 1 step down. 1 step down. 1 step down. Sorry. 1 step down.
You see?
1 step down.
Yes.
Yes.
Just one. Very good.
That's the nature of this room. It's always dark here. The women came from the top and the men from that side. Yeah. Families were separated. And this place could be the first time they'll see themselves, if not one of the partners is dead. Yeah. They lost their identity. With the second gate, please, you bend very low. Low. We are now in a room of no return. That's the gates of no return, but it's no more. Many of our ancestors, they broke down in tears over here, wet, bitter, because seeing their parents and other relatives were far from realization. Through this gate, some of the captives from here went to either Portugal, Spain, Haiti, Java, Guyana, Suriname, so many places for them to work in their various mines, plantations, and cotton farms.
We're beyond the continent.
Yeah. The Dutch were in South Africa. Yes. At the time of gold and the ivory, the gate was very wide, very big. When they changed the idea to human trade, they narrowed the gates to restrict movement. About 5 or 10 people were chained to each other. They were moving on a sideways, like this. The seawater was closer by then. Now it has receded. The ships will be at the shore before they will bring smaller boats to convey the captives into. Looking at the small size of the gates, staying in their various rooms for 1 month, 2 or 3 months, they will just lose weight. They can easily pass through. Even though per the records they were fed once or twice a day, some refused to eat, others were committing suicide. They never knew where they were taking them to. They were rather struggling with them. Yeah. All these flowers at the back by our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, in the memory of those who died over here. We say, may their souls rest in peace. Yeah. Per the records over here, we are talking of 1,000 captives in every 3 months. In 1 year, about 4,000 captives, and the trade lasted for almost 400 years. Those who died in their various forests were not counted. Children were not counted as a person. They were just added to an adult and sold as one person. Yeah. And people at times ask this question that the Europeans were doing business. If their motive, their intention was to gain much profits, then economically, they are taking good care of them, rather than allowing them to die and so on. But from my point of view, the supply of the captives were more. It wasn't in scarcity. They never mind, because if they die, they'll still get some. They were seen as an asset or commodities, not as humans. We are now moving to the female section.
The female slave dungeon was a very interesting experience because it was like, I can't imagine having that many women sitting in one room and not being cared for. And one particular part for me that was very painful to hear about was how, you know, when women are on their periods, there's no way to dispose of, you know, like anything that's got to do with keeping them clean from a menstrual period perspective, etc. And when I think about how it's like right now as a woman, whenever you go through that time of the month and to go through it in that setting, it's very upsetting. They were not cared for, like there was no kindness to their bodies, to who they were as women, but they were seen as commodities. And the fact that you can get called up by the general and he can sleep with you and have sex with you whenever he wanted and not care. It's like they use you and they discard you. For me, it tells a lot about, you know, the behavior of that time. But again, also in recent times, it hasn't changed much, to be honest with you, because it's when you look at the relationships between men and women, how men view women in a broader perspective. And I know this is a generalization, but a lot of that still hasn't changed, you know?
Right over there, it was a church in the middle of the dungeons.
Imagine that praying the
Remember
church
church?
down.
A church for who?
Yes.
The people who occupy the town.
They were
But you've got people here. You've got a room there. People are
Yes.
dying. You've
So
got that.
looking at the architectural design of the castle, we have a church above the females' dungeon. Right above the female dungeon, there's a church. You have a church over there. When you go to Cape Coast Castle, there's a church above the male slave dungeon. Okay, one. The question that people normally keep on asking, that looking at the architectural design of the castle, the dungeons, in connection with the church, is it true that the Europeans actually use the Bible as a tool to brainwash the Africans?
Oh.
That's the question.
I also remember at that time, no one talked
Yeah.
about, like, not like it's
Is it true, brainwashed indoctrination? Yeah, and it's still going on.
Because everything, and from an African perspective, even now, if you look at it, instead of like people acting, they say, oh, God will take control, God this and stuff.
Yeah.
But then God does take control for as long as you also try to make an effort.
Yes.
But I feel like that's why we also remain poor and where we are.
Yes.
Because a lot of, like, you know, preachers and pastors and even
Yeah.
Africans themselves, I think if we look at it, 90% of Africans will always talk about God and the Bible. They'll quote the scripture. Even the most uneducated person
Yes.
knows so much about the Bible.
Yes.
But then you think, like, where's the limit?
So why should Africans embrace someone's religion as superior than your own religion?
And the fact that we've got all these slave dungeons that had the largest amount of slaves, and you've got churches at the top, speaks a lot about how, you know, religion was used as a means to, I would not say corrupt a lot of people, but it was used to justify a lot of bad things for the people who were doing the bad things, you know? You had people who were killing slaves, who were raping slaves, who, you know, were not treating them well, but at the end of the day, they'll go up to a church right above the dungeon to go praise God, you know, and worship and pray. For me, I think a big part of that has got to do with the guilt that people had to face themselves, and had nothing to do about building faith, you know, in the communities that they were in. I mean, I'm not going to go into the depths of how religion played a role from a slavery perspective, but I do think that it's very sad that you get to kill someone at the bottom of a building and then you get to go up and pray for mercy at the top once you're done. Who affords the slaves the same justice, How do I get to pray as a slave and be like, God, can you be with me during this time? And is my pain less significant compared to the pain that you guys faced, These people had families, these people had friends, they were part of communities, and for me, it's just a disregard of life, just in general, that made me question a lot of the things that we believe in today. But yeah, it's like a big contradiction to see that there's people who are praying for grace and mercy at the top of a building. At the same time, they've kept hundreds and thousands of people underneath the very same floor they're worshiping and kneeling on. Yeah, there's a lot to question there.
At the female section, about 400 women were spread out over here, 400. We have 3 dungeons for them. The first one, second one, and the largest one. They were divided. The Europeans never came along with their families. Only men were here. Some of the officers were sexually abusing the women here. The governor would stand at the top, that's a balcony, because of his position. He would then order the soldiers to open the doors for the women to be assembled here. Only few ones. He would look through them and make his choice. The one the governor had selected must have been in the dungeon for several months without washing down. We have a place that the captives had their first or last bath at St. Manso before they were brought over here. When the governor selects someone, they have to get water from this well. She will wash down in the middle of the courtyard before she made to pass through an access to the governor's bedroom. Let's have a look at the access. This access leads to the governor's room. You'll be going there. When the ships had arrived, some of the women were likely seen to be pregnant. They were separated. Houses were built in a town for the pregnant ones. After some time, the children were brought back to the castle to be educated as the new officers. And that was the beginning of the formal education over here from 1529. Their mothers, we call them lucky ones. Why? They remain here as cooks, not as captives anymore. Later on, some became missionaries to them.
So is this not why we have like the last names, like the European last names?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Later on, some of the officers also moved to the town, and they customarily married the women over there. They had children with them. Along the coastal areas, we have so many European names over here: Van Dyke, Van der Poel, De Heer, Viella, Duncan, Cornelius. So many. When you go to Cape Coast, you hear Samson, Johnson, so many names with a light color skin, or the mixed blood Africans.
Oh yes, a lot of Ghanaians are light and dark at the same time.
Yes.
Like you're not in between, either dark or light.
Yeah, chocolates also.
So it's about your descendants.
Yes. And it brought about the disunity among the Africans and the Africans themselves as a result of the color differences, colorism. People were looking down upon the fellow Africans. Indirectly, the Europeans created a system: divide, conquer, and rule, which is still going on.
It's true.
Yeah.
Even now, society looks at you based on your skin color.
Yes.
Colorism.
Of course.
Not even where you're from, your skin color first.
Yes, your skin color first. There is a metal ball over there. The women who were resisting to be raped by the officers, the chains within the cannonball to be tied around the ankles here. The cannonball is right there. Try to lift it and see how heavy or light it is.
Sorry.
Don't worry. So the chains within the cannonballs will be tied around the ankles of the chosen one who resisted to be raped.
It's like a bowling ball.
It's so heavy.
You see?
Around their ankles.
Yes, so you can't move. They did that just to breaking down their spirits. It's very heavy. They had no choice. A slave to them was like sole asset of the masters. There was a program held in this room, reenactment of the slave trade. People volunteered to sleep over here for one night. They just wanted to experience how our ancestors went through. And because the captives were half naked, those who slept here for the program used the wine cloth on the floor, those things, just to cover themselves, to demonstrate with the oil lamps over there, source of lights. Yes. So it was an emotional experience. We also spent the night over here. People were giving the talks to the people gathered outside. Looking at the size of the wall, the thickness of the wall, none of the captives escaped over here. Either you die or you survive. 3 out of 10 survived in this castle. These are the original iron bars, over 300 years. They were getting rusted. We just replaced them with wooden bars. If these bars were to be the original bars, the captives could have easily escaped. This wood here is original wood, local red oak. And the one over here, they are the two main original beams by the Dutch. The rest have been changed. Red bricks by the Portuguese, yellow bricks by the Dutch from Holland. They brought them to balance their ships. In return, we were the captives. Yeah. We are now going to the biggest room for the women, the largest dungeon.
This one feels very heavy here. You can feel that.
The largest dungeon for the female captives. About 150 women were kept over here for 1, 2, or 3 months. Their stay in their various rooms depends on the arrival of the ships, how often the ships will come. Buckets were placed at various corners for them to ease themselves. Not all the captives were from Ghana, some from Nigeria, Togo, Benin, different African countries. And here was the main transit point. The mode of transportation at that time was by foot. Those who made it here were very weak. During their second month of staying in their various rooms, some of the captives could not even walk from the middle of the dungeon to where the buckets were placed. They have to do everything on the floor. Feces, urine, vomiting, blood, and they slept in it. There were no mats for them. That's the original floor they slept on. All the big entrances were closed with metal gates. The air from the small doors was not enough for those at the back. That was the other source of ventilation, which was even connected to a magazine. They were keeping their guns, gunpowder, chemicals in that room. If there is a leakage over there, accidental, the scent will just move straight over here, polluted the air, and kill them. For the dead ones, they were tied to stones. They would throw them to the sea. That was the only means of burying them. Of course, there's a stench over here. We could have used chemicals to clean this place. But don't forget, this history. You have to maintain the origins of this place. There is one wreath over there. Somebody wrote something on it. And it reads, I am a Portuguese woman who want to ask forgiveness in the name of my ancestors to all African people who suffered the pain of slavery. I am sorry, my soul lies with you, and my voice joins yours. Together we make memory and history today with a historian for the future generation. Rita Lang, Elmina, 19 August 2024. That's somebody's emotional expression. Yeah. Yes. Many of them, when they come by, they feel embarrassed. Yes, feel embarrassed.
What is the limit to humanity in terms of the behaviors that we do? And the fact that a lot of the people who actually implemented slavery were never held accountable for the injustices that they did. So for me, I think throughout the whole experience in Elmina Castle, you get to learn a lot of history, but you come out there more angry than when you were when you came in. It's a very bad part of our history, but it's our history nonetheless. So we have to continue to learn about it so that we can change the behaviors of future generations. So I think for me, that's how I could sum up the experience and how horrible it was to go through each and every one of those dungeons, you know what I mean, and realize that this is a place where a lot of our ancestors were killed, you know, without remorse, like without care, as if someone's life means nothing.
Because of the emotional aspects of the tour over here, being into the dungeon, the atrocity that they committed to humans over here, some of our brothers, and from the diasporas, they are too emotional to the extent that some of them actually, when we mix the tour with the whites, some of them at times they say confusion. Yeah, so we have to separate the tours. At times, we have to separate. There have been so many instances. Yeah.
Where there's like victim blaming.
Yeah, last 2 weeks I was doing a tour with some mixed group, and I realized that there was a problem rising. So we have to quickly call a security person to remove some people from the tour. Yeah, there were blacks and there were some few whites. There were exchange of words. So we have to separate. So yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Yeah. I mean, one thing about traveling within these specific regions is that there's such a contradiction. They barely have any lights, the slaves, mind you. They barely have any lights, barely have any ventilation. You've got thousands of people sitting on each other and standing on each other. And then the higher you go in each of the buildings, in the castles, the better the views, because you've got the ocean and you've got the most beautiful sight that you can ever see. There's air, there's, you know, people can breathe. And I'm like, so the slaves were like nothing. They didn't deserve the air, like that's free, that everybody has got access to. They didn't deserve light from the sun to punish them. Yet the very same people who punished them, the generals, you know, had good views, like very, very good views. They had a luxury of enjoying the natural resource around them, and they punished everyone else for it. Very cruel, if you ask me, like very, very cruel. And I hope, yeah, I don't know how to feel about it, but I think it's something that we take for granted so much nowadays. The fact that I can just go to a beach and just look at it with no one bothering me. And this is not something that people had an opportunity to do when they kept in dungeons that were dark and smelly, and they had no food. If they did have food, it was of bad quality. So it's another contradiction of the castles that you look at today, and you're just like, you know, who got to decide that some people get to deserve nice things and other people don't? So it's very sad. I'm just like very conflicted, because it's like I'm standing in front of a church, or what's meant to be a church, you know, something that's holy and sanctified, but just underneath is where you've got dungeons where the slaves are kept, and all of this is happening at the same time. So there's a whole contradiction to what's happening now. So, and I guess all the buildings, I mean, all the top floors of the castle have the most incredible views, and the dungeons have little to no room. Yeah. Well, little to no light or access to ventilation or windows. They didn't get to see this, you know? So, very conflicted.
Professionally, I did tourism at the Cape Coast Technical University. Yeah, and I took history as a passion. Yeah, and we normally go to institution, the town people, to seek information from the elderly ones, because it's oral tradition from one generation to another generation. My great-great-grandparent told me so many things about the history over here. And we do research, we have archaeological excavation, we go to different centers, sites, to seek information. Yeah, we have so many sources of getting African history. We have so many documented source books and so on. And I've been here a couple of years. Yeah, and based upon experience and so on, yeah, that's how we've been able to come by this information. Yeah. And apart from the castle, we also go to different centers, tourist centers, especially Salaga slave camp, Moape slave camp, the northern part of Ghana, because most of the captives came all the way from the northern part of Ghana. So we also passed the Asin Manso to seek information. So we blend the information. Yeah, that's why we're able to come by this information. Yeah.
What's your message to the world?
We should all try to learn from past mistakes. We shouldn't let history divide us. We are all one people. We have to forgive, but never to forget the history. But we are not still learning. It's still going on a different dimension. Yeah, man has to change. So in our small ways, we can also change the environment. Because when you put a small salt in the water, yeah, it dilutes the water. Yeah, so we can change the world in our small ways. It doesn't need a big environment. Even a small space can change something. Yeah, so in a way you can do that. Yeah.
What's a significant thing you have noticed across like all the tours you've given to various, different people who come to Ghana to have this experience? What's like one significant thing you could point to? Like for instance, you gave an example about the conflict within the white.
Oh, actually, to other tourists, it's an emotional experience. Yeah, and one thing I've noticed that there was a time I was doing a tour and a woman just ran out from the tour. It was just towards the sea. Maybe the kind of spiritual eyes she was having, I cannot see anything. Yeah, so the type of thing that she was seeing, I cannot see anything. Yeah, so it's based upon individual differences. Yeah, so people see things that we cannot see. Yeah, that's one aspect. Apart from the conflict, the spiritual aspect, everything. Yeah, because the place is at times very heavy. Yeah, you yourself, when it's around 7, 8 o'clock, let's experience the dungeons and see. You feel heaviness around you. Maybe you run. Yeah, nobody will tell you to run, but you run by yourself. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So when we went to Chinchim Museum, it's very beautiful, very serene and very calm. It's like almost when you go to a place and you know and you feel that it's deeply spiritual even before you know anything about it. There's a sort of zen to it that's very, very calming. And you're welcomed by the 3 sculptures outside that all have a different representation and meaning to them. And from a recording perspective, you're not allowed to kind of like record the guys telling the actual story or showing the guys. And I guess it's for a reason, because the work that they do is quite emotional and there's an integrity to it, and it's a very deeply spiritual experience that they like to preserve, which is quite okay. We do have accommodation like on ground where you can stay if you want to stay for longer and learn more about it. But the whole, going there was quite nice. And, when you get there, you get a visual documentary around the importance of the Chinchim Museum and, where it stems from and why they created the space that they created, which adds a lot of value to the tour once you do get on it. And it also provides a lot of historical context around the relation of the diaspora and people in the diaspora versus their connection to the continent. Because I think a lot of the times when we look at, African slavery and African history or apartheid or colonialism, we always consider the people who live in the continents, but we never see the story or the perspective of people who were actually taken out of the continent and into different parts of the world for whatever reason, right? If you look at people in America, the Caribbeans, if you look at Jamaicans, you look at your UKs, there's people who are moved and forced out of the continents, not out of their own world, but because of the circumstances such as slavery. So I think the museum is a great place to find the connection between the two and sort of meet the storytelling halfway, essentially. And then when you walk through the actual space, there's like a whole, I don't know what to call it, but like path or passage where it's filled by bamboo trees. And when you're taken through that walk, as you go through, you kind of like anticipate that you're going into holy ground or what's perceived as holy ground. But before you get there, there's a place where people do offerings and prayers, whether it's in the form of alcohol, then there's candles being lit, the burning of incense and the likes. That is a space that they've created to kind of like let people know that, you know, you can come and pay homage to your ancestors. You may have not known them or experienced them, but this is a way for you to feel much closer to them than you would in any other part of the world, really. And then they get to also explain the intersection of places to say that at any place where there's an intersection from an ancestral point of view, it's an opportunity where you can stay there and like kind of pray and connect to your ancestors, because this is a place where things meet and people meet and connections are made. So they also get to explain that with the different guides that you go with. And then once you go back to that path and you go just before the entry into where you can learn more about the slaves, there's a prayer that needs to be made, you know, an offering from a water perspective where you get to introduce yourself and say, this is who I am. You get to take off your shoes and walk barefoot into that space because, again, it's taken as holy ground. But it's a nice way to kind of greet and say, look, I am in your home, I am in your space, and I am here to just see and connect with you type of thing, the same way you would in your homes or in a graveyard somewhere in different parts of Africa. So I think that's an introductory way and a very special way to kind of introduce yourself. And then once you go in and you see the slave heads in water, well, the sculptures that emulate the slave heads in water, then you realize that, you know, these are actual people that were in chains and they were thrown in the ocean like they mean nothing, you know. Life was like so small, it wasn't taken as seriously as a slave. And I think that is a very painful thing to see because those sculptures look so real. It could be like any person from an African context. So they feel very, very real. And seeing them in the water is kind of crazy because then you're just like, wow, I can't believe this is, you know, how it is and how it's meant to look like. So it's very humbling. I think for me, I don't really like that experience at all, but you get to learn more about, you know, who Africans were and why slavery happened the way that it did, the different colonizers that came into the continent and why they performed slavery, you know. And the reasons still don't justify the means to what they did, but it is the reason at the end of the day, and whether history is comfortable or not, it has to be told. So you get to learn a lot more about that. Quite a bit, yeah, and how religion has actually played a very, very big role from a slavery perspective. A lot of uncomfortable conversations because, you know, as a believer, you will ask yourself certain questions, you know. When you look at the Bible, certain texts from an Ethiopian perspective, you get to talk about all of that, and it's quite intriguing. And I think the whole purpose around it is not to judge anyone or to change anyone's faith, but it's just to understand, you know, the reasons behind why we do what we do, essentially. I do know that Marcus Garvey was very instrumental from a Pan-Africanist movement, and there's a huge sculpture of him at Nchichi Museum that you can take a picture with. And I guess for me, that was the turning point in trying to understand more about Pan-Africanism. You hear a lot about revolutionaries on the continent, a lot of amazing names, but hearing of people like Marcus Garvey and really questioning myself around why wasn't I taught this in school infuriates me, because it's like, if I knew this, I probably could have been an even better African than I am today. But I guess this is the real wealth that comes with knowledge, because you're able to learn no matter the age that you're in, but also how important Pan-Africanism was in abolishing slave trade. The different leaders that we have today are really African leaders, and the great African leaders all had the same principle or the same views or similar views from a Pan-Africanism perspective. So it's quite nice to see some nice names outside of what you know from the context of whether South Africa, etc. So that was a very nice experience. Very, it sparks curiosity, essentially. Yeah. So now we're back in Accra, and we've had this amazing road trip, long, bumpy in some instances, but quite fun. And we get an opportunity to walk through the market, and they sell all kinds of foods. I mean, you get the oil, palm oil, you get a lot of palm oil, you get a lot of cassava. The different fruits and vegetables that you find there are very different to where you'd find in a different place, like in a different market. Everyone is selling clothes. But what was quite interesting to see there was that the fact that the traders would leave their stock there, and then they'll come back and find it the next day. In another area, your stock would have been stolen. Do you get what I mean? So this is something nice, or something nice that I saw. The fact that there's a level of trust within that community. But also the variation and the differences in the offerings in the market was quite nice to see. So we also had an opportunity to go to the Independence Square. The view from there, if you get onto the building with the Black Star, is so stunning. You've got the Independence Square that happens, and then you've got the beach right behind it as a beautiful backdrop. And then the very same day, we had motorbikes doing a show on the Independence Square. Then you've got dancers. It's like everybody is using the space to create content or to just have fun. And we need more spaces like this that allow the communities to come together, not lose the essence of what they are and who they are, but just be in a normal cultural setting, and people just enjoy themselves. So I think I loved seeing that. And yeah, it was quite nice to see. And I mean, it's a tourist area, so you get a few pictures. And yeah, you get to brag to the world that you've been to Ghana, and it was a fun experience. So, oh, and there's also like a football stadium as well that you can see. And it was quite nice because it was just, I think before Ghana actually qualified for the World Cup 2026. So that was quite nice to see. So if we were there longer, I would have loved to see them play some football, because obviously Ghana is known as one of the strongest African countries from a soccer perspective. So yeah.